When I was a kid, I would be lying in bed right on the edge of drifting off, and suddenly something would feel wrong. My eyes were closed, but I felt awake enough to know I was trapped. I couldn't move my hands, my legs, or anything at all. I would try desperately to scream inside, but no sound would come out.
Oh, wow. I mean, that level of vulnerability sounds completely terrifying. What did you even do in those moments when you felt totally paralyzed in your own bed?
I would just try to violently fight my way back into my body, until the trapped feeling finally broke. Welcome to TalkKast.
So what exactly is the actual medical definition for this terrifying experience you went through?
Well, it's a phenomenon called sleep paralysis. It essentially happens when a person is caught right in that weird transition between sleep and wakefulness.
Okay, so you're stuck somewhere in the middle.
Right. It leaves you completely aware of your surroundings or your internal state, but entirely unable to move your muscles. For me, it always happened precisely as I was falling asleep, though for many others, it strikes right as they are waking up in the morning.
But wait, how is it physically possible to be awake and asleep at the exact same time?
Basically, the body and the brain are just not in the same biological state. Your physical body has successfully shifted into sleep mode, but your brain has suddenly become active enough for you to feel conscious awareness.
That sounds like a really uncomfortable overlap.
It is. You end up suspended in this highly uncomfortable space, caught between two completely normal states of being.
So what does that transition state actually look like from a neurological perspective? Like, what's happening in the brain?
Well, the journey from wakefulness to deep sleep is not just a simple flip of a switch. We move through these distinct stages of sleep.
Right. The sleep cycles.
Exactly. It starts with light non-REM sleep, then dips into deep non-REM sleep, and eventually you enter REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement.
And REM is the stage where we dream.
Yes, exactly. REM sleep is the highly active phase where our most vivid dreams occur.
Are you saying that sleep paralysis happens specifically during that dreaming phase?
Yes, it is fundamentally tied to REM sleep. The biological mechanism that keeps your body still during a dream is basically lingering while your conscious mind starts to wake up.
So they just fall out of sync?
Precisely. The timing of the handover between these complex stages simply fails to synchronize.
But why would the human body ever lock itself down like that in the first place? I mean, it seems like a massive biological flaw to leave a person completely paralyzed and aware.
It definitely feels like a terrible flaw when you're trapped in it, but it's actually a vital safety mechanism.
Safety mechanism? How so?
Well, during the REM stages of sleep, your body temporarily switches off most of your voluntary muscle movement. This temporary lockdown is a built-in protective measure designed to keep you safe in your bed.
What exactly is this paralysis protecting us from, though?
It protects you from acting out your own dreams.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, imagine you're having a really vivid dream about, running from a threat or throwing a punch or jumping off a ledge.
If you weren't paralyzed, you'd actually do those things.
Exactly. If your muscles were allowed to remain active, your physical body would blindly act out all of those intense movements in the real world.
You would end up thrashing around, potentially hitting the wall or throwing yourself entirely out of the bed.
That is the exact danger. So the brain has an elegant solution. Because the mind is deeply engaged in an active, moving dream world, the brain sends a signal to keep the physical body entirely still.
And sleep paralysis is just that signal getting confused.
Right. It's simply a glitch in that protective timing. The brain wakes up before the movement switch is turned back on.
How does the brain physically achieve this complete shutdown of the muscles? It sounds pretty complicated.
There's actually a specific cluster of cells in the brainstem called the pons. When you enter REM sleep, the pons releases specialized neurotransmitters, primarily GABA and glycine, down into the spinal cord.
Okay, and what do those chemicals do?
They essentially act as a chemical roadblock. They inhibit the motor neurons from sending movement signals to your voluntary muscles.
Wait, if the brainstem is blocking signals to the muscles, why doesn't it stop the lungs from breathing or the heart from beating?
Because the brain is incredibly precise with this roadblock. It specifically targets the voluntary skeletal muscles, the ones you consciously control to move your arms, legs, and neck.
So it leaves the automatic stuff alone.
Precisely. It leaves the involuntary muscles, like your diaphragm for breathing and your eye muscles, completely alone so you can continue basic life functions.
Okay, but if this is just a harmless timing glitch where the chemical roadblock stays up a bit too long, why does it feel so incredibly terrifying to the person experiencing it?
Because the physical sensation is entirely real. Your inability to move is not a hallucination. Your vocal cords and your limbs are genuinely refusing to respond to your commands.
Which I imagine feels awful.
It does. It triggers one of the most primal human fears, which is the complete and sudden loss of bodily control.
I mean, we spend our entire lives trusting that our body will move when we tell it to.
We take that trust for granted every second of the day. You decide to move your hand, and it moves instantly. When that fundamental connection is suddenly severed, the brain registers a catastrophic failure.
How does the brain interpret that sudden inability to move? Does it just panic?
It interprets the paralysis as an immediate life-threatening danger. Because the person is stuck in this strange overlap between dreaming and waking awareness, the brain desperately searches for a meaning to explain the threat.
Like it's trying to justify why it can't move.
Yes, exactly. When the body is frozen and the mind is panicking, the brain often hallucinates a reason for the lockdown.
Is this why people throughout history have blamed these episodes on supernatural forces, like demons or ghosts?
Yes, the historical accounts perfectly match the biology. People have blamed demons, shadow figures, ghosts, or, a heavy presence sitting on their chest.
Because the dream world is bleeding into reality.
Right. The dreaming part of the brain is still partially active, so it projects these terrifying dreamlike explanations into the waking room to make sense of the physical paralysis.
Did you ever see any of those shadow figures or supernatural presences when you experienced this as a kid?
No, my experience was purely internal. My eyes were completely closed the entire time.
So you weren't hallucinating things in the room?
I wasn't looking around my bedroom seeing external shadows or monsters at all. I was just profoundly trapped inside my own transition into sleep. But the sheer terror I felt was identical to those historical accounts.
Do these timing glitches just strike completely at random? Or are there specific triggers that cause the sleep and wake mechanisms to fall out of sync?
They are not random at all. We have actually identified very specific known triggers that destabilize the sleep cycle.
What kind of triggers?
The condition is heavily linked to stress, anxiety, and disrupted sleeping patterns. Also, conditions like insomnia, panic disorder, PTSD, and even a family history make a person highly susceptible.
What exactly constitutes a disrupted sleeping pattern in this context?
It's basically anything that forces your brain to sleep at unnatural or unpredictable times.
Like staying up all night.
Yeah, or people experiencing severe jet lag or working rotating shift jobs are classic examples. Their circadian rhythm gets thrown totally off balance, making the transitions between sleep stages much more fragile and prone to these timing errors.
You mentioned physical triggers as well. Are there specific ways a person sleeps that can induce this state?
There is a very specific positional trigger. Sleeping on your back makes an episode significantly more likely to happen.
Really? Why is sleeping on your back?
When you lie flat on your back, gravity pulls your tongue and your soft palate down toward the back of your throat.
Does that physical collapse cause a breathing problem?
It causes mild airway resistance. This resistance forces the brain to experience tiny microscopic arousals just to keep you breathing properly.
Oh, so it keeps waking you up a little bit.
Exactly. These microarousals can abruptly yank your conscious mind awake while your body is still locked deep inside the REM sleep paralysis.
How do modern lifestyle habits contribute to these triggers? Because it feels like everyone's sleep is disrupted these days.
Modern life is essentially a perfect storm for sleep instability. I mean, people stay up incredibly late scrolling through highly stimulating content on their devices.
So the brain is just wired.
Right. They consume caffeine or alcohol right before bed. They go to sleep at wildly different times every single night, which destroys any sense of biological rhythm.
So they are forcing their brain to transition into sleep under the worst possible conditions.
Exactly. People are getting into bed physically exhausted but mentally wired from the stress of the day. They literally crash into sleep rather than drifting into it smoothly.
And that causes the glitch.
Yeah, crashing into sleep with an active, stressed mind creates those highly unstable transitions where sleep paralysis thrives.
How did experiencing these terrifying, unstable transitions affect your relationship with bedtime when you were a child?
Oh, it took a massive emotional toll. It created a severe fear cycle. Bedtime completely stopped being a safe space for me.
It became a negative experience.
Very much so. Instead of being relaxing, my own bedroom became a place I absolutely dreaded every single night.
What was going through your mind as you lay there trying to fall asleep?
Well, I would just lie there in the dark, actively waiting for that trapped feeling to wash over me. I was completely bracing myself for the paralysis.
That sounds exhausting.
The dread was overwhelming because I knew the moment I started to drift off, my body might lock me inside myself again.
If you are lying in bed bracing for an attack, your brain must be in a state of hypervigilance.
It was pure anticipatory anxiety. I was terrified of the sleep paralysis, so my nervous system stayed on high alert.
You couldn't relax at all.
Right. That hypervigilance made it nearly impossible to relax enough to fall into the deeper restorative stages of sleep.
How does that inability to relax affect the likelihood of the paralysis returning?
It creates a cruel, self-feeding loop. The fear of the event makes it harder to fall asleep, which then leads to sleep disruption and physical exhaustion.
And then the exhaustion triggers it again.
Yes, that specific exhaustion from fighting sleep actually fragments your sleep architecture. It makes the timing glitch much more likely to happen the next time you finally nod off.
How did you manage to ever fall asleep again while you were stuck inside that miserable anxiety loop?
I had to find a very specific coping mechanism to break the dread. As a child, I basically asked my mom to leave the television on in the background while I was in bed.
Was it the visual distraction of watching the screen that kept you grounded?
No, it had nothing to do with the screen or the flickering light. The television was actually located in another room, far away down the hall from my bed.
So you couldn't even see it?
Right. It was strictly the ambient sound of the broadcast drifting into my room that mattered.
Why was the distant sound of a television so effective at breaking such a severe fear cycle?
Because the background noise broke the massive, heavy silence of the bedroom. When you're a frightened child lying in the dark waiting for something terrible to happen, complete silence is deafening.
It just lets your mind wander.
It forces your anxious brain to turn all of its attention inward.
Does silence amplify your awareness of your own bodily sensations?
Intensely so. Without external noise, you start noticing every single heartbeat. You overthink every tiny shift in your breathing or every small muscle twitch.
I can see how that would make you panic more.
Exactly. The distant TV provided ordinary, predictable background noise that gave my brain an external anchor.
What did that external anchor do to your heightened state of anxiety?
It stopped me from listening too closely to my own body. The mundane sound signaled to my nervous system that the environment was normal and safe.
It kind of proved you weren't in danger.
Right. Because I had that subtle sense of predictability, my nervous system could stop bracing for an attack and finally power down.
That actually contradicts a lot of modern sleep advice, which often demands total silence and absolute darkness for perfect sleep hygiene.
Well, the concept of perfect sleep hygiene does not account for someone trapped in a fear cycle. For an anxious brain that associates the bed with a threat, total silence might actually be the worst possible environment.
Because the silence becomes threatening.
Exactly. The goal in that scenario is not clinical sleep hygiene. The primary goal is emotional safety.
How can someone today recreate that emotional safety without leaving a highly stimulating television broadcasting all night?
The modern version is all about creating a non-threatening, predictable auditory environment. You can achieve this by keeping a fan running in the corner of the room.
Like white noise.
Yeah, you can play gentle rain sounds, quiet ambient music, or a calming audio track set on a sleep timer.
Why do steady sounds like rain or a fan work so well for an anxious sleeper?
They provide a steady, unchanging acoustic baseline. It makes the room feel less empty and reduces the heavy silence that causes an anxious brain to spiral.
Just as a consistent comfort.
Right. A simple, non-stimulating comfort helps the body stop bracing for impact, allowing the brain to glide smoothly down the stages of sleep.
Aside from changing the sound environment, what practical habits can a person build into their life to prevent these episodes from triggering in the first place?
The absolute foundation of preventative care is getting 7 to 9 hours of continuous sleep. You must also maintain a highly consistent bedtime and wake time every single day.
Routine is that important.
Very. The human brain deeply relies on rhythm, and consistent timing anchors your circadian cycle, which stabilizes the transitions between sleep stages.
What role does physical activity play in regulating those sleep transitions?
Regular exercise is excellent for deepening your sleep, but timing is critical. You must avoid doing strenuous workouts in the 4 hours right before you go to bed.
Because it wakes the body up.
Yeah, exercise spikes your core body temperature and releases adrenaline. That leaves the nervous system far too stimulated to transition into sleep smoothly.
Are there dietary habits that people need to be aware of to protect their sleep cycle?
Definitely. You need to avoid eating large, heavy meals right before lying down, as digestion can cause discomfort and microarousals.
What about drinking?
You should avoid smoking, drinking alcohol, or consuming caffeine shortly before sleep. Alcohol is particularly notorious for fragmenting your REM sleep and causing unstable rebounds later in the night.
You mentioned avoiding sleeping on the back earlier. Is that a permanent rule for prevention?
If you are actively prone to these episodes, you must absolutely train yourself to avoid sleeping in the supine position.
So sleep on your side instead.
Exactly. Sleeping on your side keeps your airway open and prevents the micro-arousals that pull your conscious mind out of REM sleep prematurely.
Okay, but if someone listening to this wakes up tonight, perfectly aware but completely paralyzed, what should they actually do in that terrifying moment?
There are very specific tactical steps you can take. The very first step is to use active internal self-talk.
What do you mean by self-talk?
You must consciously remind yourself that the episode will pass and that you are not in any actual physical danger.
How does internal self-talk help when your body is literally refusing to move?
It forces your logical brain, the prefrontal cortex, to engage. You basically tell yourself, my body is asleep, my brain is awake, and this is temporary.
So you're talking down your own panic.
Yes, by doing this, you are actively overriding the amygdala's panic response with logic, preventing the fear from spiraling into a hallucination.
What is the next physical step a person should take once they engage their logical brain?
The second step is to focus entirely on slow, steady breathing. You will likely feel panicked, and you might even feel a heavy pressure on your chest, but you must consciously control your breath.
Just breathing slowly works.
Slowing your breathing down sends a powerful biological signal through your vagus nerve to calm the rest of your nervous system.
What should a person do about the paralysis itself, though? I mean, the natural instinct must be to thrash around and force your limbs to wake up.
Thrashing is the absolute worst thing you can do. Third rule is to never try to fight the paralysis with your whole body.
Why not? Doesn't that wake the body up?
No, fighting it drastically increases the panic, which causes the brain to hold on to the lockdown even longer.
If fighting it makes the episode worse, what is the alternative to break the paralysis?
Instead of fighting the overwhelming paralysis of your major muscle groups, try moving just one tiny thing. Focus all of your mental energy and attention on wiggling a single finger or a single toe.
Just one toe.
Yeah, you want to find a microscopic point of control.
Why does wiggling a tiny toe work better than trying to move your entire arm?
By focusing on a tiny extremity, you are sending a concentrated signal from your motor cortex that bypasses the massive chemical blockade in your spinal cord.
It slips through the roadblock.
Exactly. Once you manage to regain that tiny microscopic movement, the rest of the chemical spell shatters, and you instantly regain control of your whole body.
What should the person do the moment they break the paralysis and can finally move again?
It is crucial that you do not just squeeze your eyes shut and try to force yourself back to sleep instantly. You must sit up in bed.
Sit up completely.
Yes, exactly. Sit up, have a sip of water, and take a moment to let your heart rate fully settle down to a normal pace.
Why is it a bad idea to go straight back to sleep?
Because your brain state is still hovering right on that unstable boundary between REM sleep and wakefulness. If you dive right back down while still agitated, you risk falling straight back into the exact same timing glitch.
So you have to reset.
You must return to sleep gently without putting pressure on yourself.
What happens if these practical steps are not enough? When is it time for someone to actually seek professional medical help?
If the episodes are causing constant, unrelenting tiredness during the day or severe, life-altering anxiety about going to sleep at night, you should see a general practitioner or a specialized sleep doctor. You do not have to live in perpetual dread.
What medical treatments are actually available for a person suffering from severe episodes?
The first step for a doctor is to look for and treat underlying conditions. If the sleep paralysis is being triggered by severe insomnia, sleep apnea, or PTSD, treating that root cause often stops the paralysis entirely.
Are there therapies that focus specifically on the fear of falling asleep?
Yes, doctors frequently refer patients to cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. This specific therapy helps patients restructure their thoughts around bedtime.
Stop the anxiety loop.
Exactly. It teaches them how to break the intense self-feeding fear cycle that keeps their nervous system hypervigilant.
What about pharmaceutical interventions? Are there medications that stop the brain from glitching?
In severe cases, doctors can prescribe a very low dose of medication typically used for depression. These specific medications alter your sleep architecture by suppressing the amount of REM sleep you get.
Less REM sleep means less chance for paralysis.
Right. By reducing REM sleep, they prevent the brain from waking up while the body is locked down.
Reflecting on your own journey with this condition, what eventually happened to your childhood episodes? Did you have to train yourself out of them?
Honestly, they simply faded as I got older. My daily routine stabilized, my nervous system matured.
They just stopped.
Yeah, the generalized stress of my childhood changed, and the episodes slowly went away entirely on their own. I didn't cure them, I just outgrew the conditions triggering them.
Do people ever experience this phenomenon for the first time as adult?
Yes, quite frequently, actually. While many people grow out of it as their sleep architecture matures, an adult can experience it suddenly due to a spike in extreme stress.
Like a major life change.
Exactly. Starting a new job with shift work or going through a period of severe sleep deprivation can abruptly trigger it in someone who has never felt it before.
Looking back at that frightened child lying in the dark waiting for the paralysis, what is the ultimate value of understanding all of this science today?
The biggest, most profound takeaway is that understanding drastically reduces fear. When I was a child, the sheer unknown nature of the experience is what made it so paralyzingly terrifying.
You didn't know what was happening to you.
I didn't have a name for it, and I didn't know my body was just locking itself down for safety.
How did learning the biological mechanics of the transition glitch change your memory of it?
Learning the science years later obviously didn't change my past, but it entirely changed my relationship to that memory. It gave me a profound sense of control over my own history.
It reframed the whole experience.
It proved that my body was not broken, and the dark room was never inherently dangerous.
It replaces the panic of the unknown with the calm observation of biology.
Yes, it leaves you with a very clear realization. Sometimes the things that feel the absolute scariest in life are just things we do not understand yet. And there is no shame in needing a little comfort in the dark while you figure it out. Thanks for listening to TalkKast.